welcome you to our 2022-23 budget input session. You can see before you our agenda for tonight, and you'll eventually hear from me about the budget and an overview, followed by some Q&A. But it's now my pleasure to turn tonight's program over to Mayor of the City of Rochester, our Mayor, Malik Evans. Mayor.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you all for joining Budget Director Mike Burns and me here tonight, along with other members of the budget staff. As many of you may know, this is my first time going through the city budget process as your mayor, but this certainly isn't my first budget process. I served as a legislative aide for City Council, and I chaired, as a member of City Council, the City Council Finance Committee. And as many of you may know, that my career before becoming mayor has been as a banker. So I got to admit that there's a part of me that actually enjoys this stuff. That being said, this is a difficult process, and I'm very grateful that you all have agreed to join us here tonight to help us with it. It's difficult because drafting budgets require difficult decisions. You all manage budgets in your own homes and maybe even at work, so I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. And just like you do with your budgets at home, the city's budget reflects opportunities and challenges, and it also reflects resources we have to address them. And just like you, I'm sure we have more opportunities and challenges than we have resources to pay for them. So we have to set our priorities. And that's where we need your help. Budgets are a statement of priorities. And we want to make sure the priorities that get reflected in this budget reflects the priorities of the people we serve. In a few minutes, Mike Burns, our new budget director, is going to give you a brief overview of our budget with our revenue streams and some of the priorities that have already been set for us, like how much we give to our school district. This is also Mike's first city budget process with my administration, and I really like the new perspective he is bringing to the table. For one thing, you haven't heard me talk about the budget gap. Don't get me wrong, we have a gap, and it's significant. That number is never far from my mind. But Mike told me he wants to shift the budget conversation away from the annual deficit. We didn't ask you to join us here tonight to help us close our budget gap. We are here to set priorities. We're here to maximize the opportunities and limit our challenges. With your help tonight, we're going to put our city on a path where everyone has success and prosperity. And that is one of our goals of the administration. So I thank you all for joining us tonight. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Mike and his team. Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have a few minutes to speak with each of you this evening, to provide some brief background on the city's budget. And I'm thankful that you've taken the time out of your evening to provide us with input that will inform our 2022-23 budget development process. I should note that we will have an opportunity for Q&A after my presentation and our polling questions. So please submit any questions that you have using the chat function. So what is a city budget? Well, though it may be larger in size than any of the budgets we have for our own household, the underlying concept is really the same. Just as it is for your household, our budget is a statement of priorities that guides what we are able to do based on the extent of resources we have available to us. Building on the concept of a statement of priorities, though maybe not formally documented, I'm certain if I asked each of you the priorities for your own household, you'd be able to come up with several that immediately come to mind. For the Evans administration, we have 6 priorities, and I'd like to briefly speak to each one. First, economic empowerment. A good paying job can have a tremendous impact on an individual or family that goes well beyond financial security and being able to pay your bills. Jobs are transformative. When people are stabilized and don't have to worry about paying their rent or where their next meal is coming from, they can thrive rather than merely survive. Next, promoting equity, inclusion, and social justice. Rochester has some of the highest poverty rates in the nation, and that is no accident. The poverty rates reflect the decisions of past governments that denied opportunities to Black and Brown residents and pushed them into low-income neighborhoods through redlining. We must actively reverse these decisions with new policies and investments because it is not only the right thing to do, but the smart thing to do. Every resident of Rochester is paying a tremendous cost for the poverty rate. On to building towards a prosperous future. Rochester's built environment does not reflect the reality of today. It was built for a population of 300,000 people within the city and hundreds of thousands more who lived in the suburbs but traveled in and out of the city on a daily basis to work in manufacturing centers and visit downtown to shop and seek entertainment. That is not quite the city we live in today. The Rochester 2034 plan is our blueprint for growth and development leading up to Rochester's 200th birthday. It reflects Rochester's diversity and the need for equity and shifting the economy from manufacturing to innovation. It lays out the vision we are attempting to achieve with large-scale capital investments like the Interloop North and Rock the Riverway. We are currently in the process to rewrite the city zoning code, our land use laws, to reflect the vision for Rochester 2034, which was adopted in 2019. Next, strengthening neighborhoods. Stable neighborhoods make for a stable city. Creating stable neighborhoods will increase neighborhood value and bring attention to the importance of the environment in urban neighborhoods. With regard to public safety, Rochester is a diverse community with residents diverse in race, religion, culture, gender, sexual orientation, income, and disability status. Our community's law enforcement must value and respect Rochester's diversity and protect the dignity and human rights of all residents. And youth development. Rochester is uniquely positioned to address issues directly impacting our children. The community needs for youth development and recreation are extensive, and opportunities for alliance with industry partners are tremendous. Before we get to our first poll question, I want to spend a moment putting the city's budget into context. The state of New York's budget for the current fiscal year is $212 billion. A number that seems almost unfathomable. The County of Monroe, which includes the city, has a $1.3 billion annual budget. Focusing closer to home, Rochester City School District's annual budget is just shy of $1 billion, and the city's annual budget for the fiscal year we are currently in, which ends June 30th, is $561 million. One item about our budget that is important to note, and that is that the city is required to make an annual contribution of $119 million to the Rochester City School District. At last, our first poll question. What is the best way for the city to increase economic empowerment for Rochester residents? Is it more job availability, training and workforce development, or small business assistance? I'll repeat that one more time. What is the best way for the city to increase economic empowerment for Rochester residents? Is it more job availability, training and workforce development, or small business assistance? Hopefully you've all had a chance to answer, and now we'll look at the results. All right, so it looks like 43% responded with more job availability, 29% selected training and workforce development, and also 29% selected small business assistance. Great, thanks very much for that feedback. So now that we've talked about priorities, I'll provide an overview of where the money comes from that we then use to provide the programs and services we offer our residents. I think the pie chart currently showing does a good job in illustrating this. We receive about $179 million in property tax revenue, or 33.9% of revenue that we receive overall. but about 2/3 of those funds fund the contribution to RCSD that I mentioned earlier. Sales tax generated from the purchases we all make provides approximately $162 million, or almost 1/3 of our overall revenue. State aid, the majority of which comes through state aid to municipalities, provides $97.5 million, or 18.4% of our revenue, and other revenue, which is derived from fees, licenses, reimbursements, and other sources, provides $90.2 million, or 17.1% of our overall revenue, and makes up the balance of the revenue available to fund programs and services. Speaking of programs and services, you can see how they break down across the various departments. The cost of healthcare, pension expenses, and other benefits shown as undistributed, support to RCSD, police, fire, and environmental services comprising the top 5 categories, with several other important areas making up the balance. Okay, on to our next poll question. Where would you expand funding to best address crime? Would it be Pathways to Peace in the Office of Neighborhood Safety? Increase number of police officers on patrol? Or more mental health services? I'll repeat that one more time. Where would you expand funding to best address crime? Would it be Pathways to Peace in the Office of Neighborhood Safety? Increase number of police officers on patrol? Or more mental health services? Great. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to respond, and we will look at the results. Okay, looks like 22% selected Pathways to Peace in the Office of Neighborhood Safety in terms of where they would expand funding to best address crime. 11% said they would increase the number of police officers on patrol, and 67% indicated that they would expand funding to offer more mental health services. So thanks for those responses there. So back to the budget. And we've talked about where our funding comes from and how it is spent. But does the city necessarily receive all the funding that it needs each year to cover its expenses? Per the city charter, the city must produce a balanced budget each year, which is a challenge as it begins its annual budget process with a budget gap. To close that gap, which arises when forecasted expenses for the fiscal year exceed forecasted revenues, we work to do so in a manner that minimizes the impact to the programs and services that we provide. Our 2021-22 budget book provides more information on our multi-year projection process, and you can find that specifically on page 1-47. Now that I've covered the budget, I'll speak briefly about the $202.1 million the city has been awarded through the American Rescue Plan Act. As of February, City Council has appropriated just half of the total amount awarded. And it is important to note that all funds must be expended by December 31st, 2026. Before we get to our last polling question, let's look at the remaining milestones for our 2022-23 budget process. Over the next few weeks, we're offering opportunities for community input, starting with the launch of our online survey, which launched today and runs through March 21st, and tonight's Zoom session. Next Monday, we'll offer another input opportunity through our community telephone town hall. Information on both the telephone town hall and online survey can be found at cityofrochester.gov/budget. Then we'll work on budget development throughout March and April until the proposed budget is finalized and presented to City Council on May 13th. Lastly, Council will work to review the budget and will vote on it at their June meeting. All right, now on to our last poll question, which involves youth development. What is the greatest need among our youth? Is it violence reduction, mental health assistance, job training, or recreation opportunities? I'll repeat that again. What is the greatest need among our youth? Is it violence reduction, mental health assistance, job training, or recreation opportunities? Hopefully you've all had a chance to vote, and so now we'll look at the results. Okay, and the results are in. It looks like 29% selected violence reduction as the greatest need among our youth. 29% also selected mental health assistance, followed by job training at 21% and recreation opportunities at 21%. So thank you all for participating in our polling questions. And now I'd like to turn it over to Sarah Boyce from the Budget Office for our Q&A.
Thank you very much, Mike. Appreciate that. Hi, everybody. Happy to be here tonight. Just a reminder, if you have any questions you might like to ask, you can share them in the chat box. And if we have a chance, we will ask those questions. A question for you first, Mike, is about job training. Can you tell us what types of job training the city provides for adults who might need it, or for teens or young adults who need to develop job skills?
Thanks for that. So yes, the city supports YAMTEP, which stands for Young Adult Manufacturing Training Employment Program, that provides manufacturing skills and training services to young adults looking to enter the workforce. The city's EPA Rejob Training Program also continues and helps Rochester citizens obtain training leading to jobs in the environmental construction industry. For younger people, the Summer of Opportunity program connects high school youth with local employment opportunities, and the Central Library's Technology Center provides workforce development with digital literacy, technology skills building, and work readiness programming. And I have to say, last night, being here at City Hall was great to see all the young people for the Rejob graduation ceremony, and over the weekend had the pleasure of attending one of our employment fair over at the MCC downtown campus, and see all the tremendous opportunities that were available to our young people from the nearly 50 employers that attended that event.
Thanks, Mike. The next question is about the budget process. You touched on some of the next steps we have coming up in the budget process. Can you talk about how the budget process includes equity considerations?
Yes, so for the third year, we've required departments to submit an equity budget tool as part of their budget submission. And in 2021, City Council actually passed an ordinance requiring the city to integrate equity considerations into the citywide budgetary process. So the equity tool requires departments to explain how their budget submission serves to enhance diversity internally in their own departments, and to encourage and improve equity and social justice in how they deliver services to the community. The responses are then summarized and published in a section of our budget book each year.
Thanks, Mike. And we actually had a comment poster here who mentioned that the Flower City AmeriCorps program also allows young adults to gain job experience. So thank you for that comment to one of our participants. Mike, can you give an update on Rock the Riverway and some of the projects going on there?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. So phase one of Rock the Riverway included 13 projects, such as the Genesee Riverway Trail along the riverfront in Center City, a redesign of Charles Carroll Plaza, and the Rock City Skate Park, which hopefully the weather will be getting good soon enough, and that skate park will once again be vibrant with skateboarders, excluding me. As phase two of Rock the Riverway, Governor Hochul's State of the State included $6 million in funding to pay for the design of Rochester High Falls State Park, as well as funds for reimagining the aqueduct, High Falls Visitor Center, and expansion of the Rochester Riverside Hotel and Convention Center. To add more exciting news, pretty exciting day around here yesterday. Governor announced $100 million in state funding to fully fund the city's Interloop North transformation project. So, sure I speak for the mayor. We are super excited about that.
Definitely a huge announcement for us to hear in the city of Rochester. Absolutely. The rent moratorium, which had been going on for quite a while, did expire in New York State in January. Mike, do you know what assistance is available to help those who might be needing housing assistance at this time?
I do. So best first step is to call the 211 Lifeline, which is open 24/7 and can direct you to the services available to your specific need. And the Tenant Defense Project is also available to provide assistance in the event or in the case of an impending eviction.
Okay, great. And another topic that's on a lot of people's minds these days is around public safety and what steps the city is currently taking to address crime.
Yeah, so without question, the mayor recognizes that crime is a very important concern for the Rochester community. And in response to that, he has centralized the city's violence prevention programs under a newly created position in his office, filled by Victor Saunders, who I am privileged to call a colleague. Pathways to Peace, the Office of Neighborhood Safety, and Peacemaker Fellowship Program will all be centralized under Victor's leadership. So a little bit of background for those who don't know, Pathways to Peace reaches into targeted neighborhoods to engage youth, diffuse potentially violent situations, and connect people to available resources and services. The Office of Neighborhood Safety, which sometimes you'll hear referred to as ONS, works to implement violence reduction strategies and guides public-private sector investments in social programs that work to combat violence. The Advanced Peace Program is an urban gun violence disruption strategy that works to end cyclical and retaliatory gun violence by investing in the health and well-being of those at the center of the crisis. And yesterday, Governor Hochul met with the mayor to discuss a joint commitment to combat gun violence.
Okay, thank you for that. Youth development, of course, is very important, both to Mayor Evans and to all of us here. COVID really caused a lot of disruption in a lot of services, including those to youth. Has programming for youth returned to relatively normal hours and offerings now that kids are back in school?
A lot of exciting things going on in the Department of Recreation and Human Services, and I am pleased to report that yes, our Department of Rec and Human Services, as well as our central and community libraries, offer extensive programming, I should say, for school-aged youth. Our Biz Kids program was back in person this winter. Our centers provide extensive offerings, including after-school programming, and the Kids Cafe also is available there and provides a dinner program during the school year. So looking forward to all those things progressing back to a bit more of a normal state.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Evans, are you on the line?
Yes, hello.
Could I throw a question or two to you, Mayor?
Sure.
We've got a question from someone asking whether funds are allocated to grassroots organizations that work with youth in high impacted neighborhoods.
Yeah, the city looks to fund many community partners that work with youth. We've been doing that for for years. The city is always looking to partner with other organizations that are doing that. Although we don't have an unlimited supply of dollars, we do look to target dollars for organizations that work with young people. So you heard some of the programs and partners that we mentioned earlier, and we will continue to look to try to find those opportunities if they make sense and if we have the dollars. And if we don't have the dollars, then we can work on connecting you with other resources that might be able to help support the work.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor. We had a comment from Bruce saying that there seems to be a gap missing getting youth and the unemployed, getting them the grit they need to get enrolled into a skills development program. So we know that the need for skills development is out there both among our youth and among adults. So thank you for that comment. Mayor, another question for you. Can you speak to bringing more retail and commerce to the sort of the old Midtown area downtown in Rochester?
Well, that's very important. As we continue to get more people living downtown, we start to reach that critical mass in which, the retail and commerce will drive the individuals as we start to reach the critical mass of people living there. I think that we will start to see more of that. Innovation Square, for example, is an example. Is an example of a place where you have lots of students that are living there that have needs for resources. There's probably close to 30,000 people or more living downtown right now. And as we continue to grow with the amount of people that are living downtown, I think that we will start to attract more commerce. It's that density that we need to be able to create that commerce. You have to have the demand. And you're starting to see that. One example is, I love to point out, and I hope that people go and support it. The old Sibley building. There's lots of small different types of restaurants that are there, and I think that that's something that we can build on. But as we build more housing downtown, you'll start to see more of that demand, and I think that in a couple of years you'll start seeing a lot more commerce downtown, more stops, more shops, more stores, as we continue to build housing, because people will have needs for those goods and services. So the more we build, hopefully the more people will come, and then the more demand that we will see for those services that you just referenced.
That's great. Thank you so much, Mayor. And we have one more question here for the budget director. How can the public see the budget and funding dollars reported not only by the projects themselves, but also by the dollar amounts provided by quadrant or by zip code?
Thanks for that question. So, one of the things that I'm really focused on as I get settled in here as budget director is ensuring that we are presenting the budget information in a way that's meaningful and useful to our residents. So, we're looking at software solutions that'll assist with that. Also looking to other cities that do that particularly well, and seeing what it is that we might learn from those examples. Because, I think, although I'm sure there are people out there that enjoy reading the 599-page budget book, I've come to appreciate that there may be at least one or two that would like a more, focused menu of information. And so very mindful of that as I start my tenure and focused on how we can make the information that people need easily accessible to them in a way that they can understand.
That sounds like something to look forward to, Mike. So thank you for sharing that. And that is the end of the questions that have been submitted here. So I will turn it back to the budget director to close us out. Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks, Sarah. Really appreciate you leading us through that. Mayor, thanks for being with us tonight. And thanks for everyone out in the audience. We really appreciate the input that we received. And just want to remind you that to take the online survey or sign up for the telephone town hall, again, please visit cityofrochester.gov/budget. Thanks again, and have a great evening, everyone.